All of us with Imaging Sciences would like to welcome you to this tutorial on creating viewing sequences and 3D videos with Treatment Studio. When Treatment Studio opens, you will be in the Art section tab. Sequences of 2D reconstructed data can be done in this tab, as well as the TMJ tab and the Section tab. For this training, we will use the Section tab. We will want to make any necessary viewing adjustments before capturing begins. If necessary, adjust the brightness and the contrast. And then next, adjust image sharpening to a desired level. We have 5 filter choices, and most of the doctors that I have worked with like the hard filter to better show the cortical edges of the anatomy. So we'll go ahead and choose that. And if you would like to remove any of the text in the windows, the viewing windows, select the eye on the toolbar. So let's go up to the top. We'll find the eye, and you notice the text on the windows. We'll click eye, and it will go ahead and remove that. Now there will be a patient name stamp in the upper left corner of any view sequence movies that have been produced. Next, you may wish to move the slider bars until the slices are found that you would like to use in your transitions. For the purposes of this tutorial, we're going to take the red line that we see on the coronal rendering window until you can clearly see the condylar heads in their widest horizontal view. So we're going to move that, and we'll look at the axial rendering window until I can see my condyles just as wide between the axes as I can see them. And then next we want to move the blue line in the axial view until it segments the condyles. So as we do this, we'll notice that there are changes that take place. We'll be moving through the slices in the coronal rendering window, and then we get a nice coronal view of our TM joint. And you can move either of these green lines midline, and as we do that, you can see in the sagittal rendering window that we move through the frame. So we'll move that midline just a little past midline. I'd like to be able to see the airway just as well as what I can see it. It's now time to open the view sequencer, which is located on the toolbar. It's represented by a picture of the video camera. So we'll left mouse click that, and it is setting over our viewing windows now. So let's just left mouse click on the view sequencer's title. Left mouse click, and we'll drag that to the left of the window. The insert button on the sequencer will allow you to add a frame which you would like to progress through, and you can keep clicking to insert additional frames. Insert, left mouse click, it's capturing what it sees on the screen, and every time we click insert, it will insert another frame. The sequence will then follow the path of the frames that you have included. You may modify the frames that you have, which will take the frame, say this frame down here, the third frame, which is this view, and if we would rather have a different view in that frame, we can come back and just click modify rather than delete and insert again. So as I click through the frames that I have saved, you can see the first 2 were identical, and then the third goes ahead and changes back. We'll go ahead and now deselect the frames that we've entered just by clicking the delete button, and it will delete all the frames out of our sequence. Dropping down, you see loop. If you click loop, it will go from the beginning to the end of the transitions, and it will loop back around and play again. So just a continual play time. We'll go ahead and deselect that now, and we'll do that later and loop it. I have seen loop sequences used very effectively on computers as patients are waiting to consult with the doctor. So it's something that you might want to consider using. When start is selected, the sequence will be poised to begin with the first frame captured. End will take you to the last frame, which is right down here, start, and then end. End is the last frame, and stop the view sequence if it's playing. So it'll take us all the way to the end, plus it would go ahead, if we were in the middle of a transition, we could go ahead and click end and it would stop it at that point. The play pause button will either begin the sequence or pause it. As we add more frames per view, which let's pull this up just a little bit. Okay, as we add more frames per view, it will slow the video and make the transition smoother. For our purpose today, let's go ahead and I'm going to highlight the 10, which I believe is the default, and then we'll click 30, so 30 frames per view. Now we will add our first frame. We'll click Insert, and we notice though after we've done that we have cursor that we use to move through the anatomy, through the slices. We notice that it's still on the screen. That can be taken off, which makes for a nicer looking presentation. Let's go ahead and delete this frame, and we'll go to the top to the toolbar, and we'll find the toggle cursor visibility, and we'll left mouse click that, and that will turn off our cursor, and we'll go ahead and click Insert to capture the frame. Next, we want to turn the cursor visibility back on, because we're going to make some movement over here and move through our frames, and we want to move the red line in the sagittal rendering window until it's located on the turbinates. So this is the area that we want right up here, so I'll just left mouse click on the red line, and then as I'm doing that you can look at the sagittal view, or we can look over here at the axial view. So just a place that I wanted to start with this example. I'm going to turn off the cursor visibility again, and we'll go ahead and click Insert to capture our second frame, and then click Toggle Cursor Visibility again, turning it on, and then we want to move the red line in the sagittal rendering window to the mandibular roots. So I'll left mouse click that, we'll drag that down, and I can either be looking again at the image on the sagittal view, or as I'm dragging this down, I'm looking over on my left screen to the axial view. Now let's turn off the cursor visibility, and then we'll click Insert. Now let's turn back on the visibility, and then we'll want to move the line to where we were when we began with our first frame, and then we're going to click the visibility option, click Insert, turn visibility back on. Next, I want to left mouse click at the intersection of any of the lines that are on any of the rendering windows. So I'll left mouse click right here in the middle, hold it down, and I can drag my mouse to any location that I want to, which will change the viewing frame that we're looking at in the rendering windows on each of the screens. So I'll move that, and I'm going to put that right on top of the patient's right condyle. Now notice that the anatomy is identified as right and left with an R and an L in both the axial and the coronal view. Go to the sagittal window, and we have a P for posterior and an A for anterior. You will see that we now have the same anatomy but from a different perspective in the three rendering windows. Let's deselect the toggle cursor visibility again, and then click Insert. Let's go ahead and collect our next frame, and let's repeat the cursor line movements, grabbing the intersection, and let's move them to the patient's left condyle. If you would like to magnify a frame before insertion, you can do so by holding down the Control key on your keyboard, and while holding down the left mouse button within the desired view window, move the mouse to magnify the frame before insertion. You may also hold down your keyboard's Shift key and left mouse button while moving the mouse to pan through the image within the view window. Let's place our Control button down, left mouse button down while we're residing in the sagittal rendering window, and then we'll just push our mouse up. And then we're off to the side now. We've gone to the left hand side of the screen, so I want to move that back over towards the middle. So I'm going to hit Shift, hold that down, left mouse button, and we'll just move that over a wee bit. Now I want to deselect cursor visibility once again, and then we'll click Insert. Now let's go to the toolbar, and we'll find the first icon to the left says Reset View when I hover over it with my mouse cursor. Let's left mouse click that, and that will take our image that we magnified back down to the default size. Now I want to turn on the visibility, and I'll go ahead and do a couple more insertions. So I want to move the green line back to midline, and I want to move the blue line in the axial rendering window up to the sinus. And we'll insert that. Now we want to move the blue line located in the axial rendering window down until we can clearly see the spine in the coronal rendering window. You should have the mechanics of frame insertion now. Let's go ahead and check our work. We'll click on Start to go to the first frame, and then we're going to click Play. So between each of the frames that have been inserted, we have transitions are made where it's going through additional frames. I'm sure you'll be a lot more creative than what this was, but this is just creating a few frames for example. But they can make very powerful presentations with patients or as you share them with colleagues. Now, if you wanted more of a delay at a particular point in the sequence, you could add duplicate frames. For example, if you wanted to explain something about the patient's TM joint, then you may want to hover over that just a little bit longer. Now, you can always click play and pause, which will pause the video where you're at. But if you're away from that a ways where you're not close to the keyboard or close to your mouse, you may want to go ahead and hover over the top of that. So let's find the frames that represent the condyles. So we'll just kind of hunt here for just a moment. Okay, there's our patient's right condyle. So what I'm going to do is click Insert at this point. We'll add an additional frame. Find the patient's right condyle, and then we'll click Insert to add an additional frame there, and then let's click Start, taking us to the beginning of the sequence, and then click Play. Okay, at this point we have a pause looking at the sagittal view of our condyle, which would give us time to maybe point out something that we would like to share with the patient. And then now we've paused over the patient's left condyle. This view sequence, which we just created, will be available for any subsequent patient scans that are loaded into Treatment Studio. So after you've closed Treatment Studio and you want to open back up for another patient and you wanted to go through the same type of sequence with them, then you could go ahead and as soon as you load the data, you can pull up the view sequencer and click play, and it would take their scan through the same transitions that we just made. Now, if you would like to save your sequence as a shareable video, let's click Video Capture. Okay, and we have a pop-up that says Logo Image File Doesn't Exist. So let's go ahead and click OK on that. Next, let's select Change in the movie file location or file name. So we'll click change, and we can select where a file may be of, say, or where we want to save the movie. So let's just save it to my desktop for right now, and it'll just be called Fourth Molar Roots. That would actually have your patient's name, but this has been anonymized. So I'll click save there, and then we can either use the default codec that's shown or select another from the drop down menu, which is right here. So it's the codec that is available is Microsoft Video 1. If we click on the down line, then we'll have other codecs here. Now, for those of you who may not know, a codec is a program that it will both shrink the large movie files, and it also makes them playable on your computer. Codecs are required for your media player to play your downloaded music and videos. If you experience any trouble with the video's quality, a different codec may be better. So if you experience any problems as you're saving and viewing the videos, you might select a different codec here, or you can Google that and see if you can select another one for your operating system and try that as well. I haven't found any problems with the Microsoft Video 1, but you may for your particular computer. In the video frames and playing time section, you can add more frames to make the transitions play more smoothly. You can also add more frames to change the play speed. So we're going to go ahead and leave these defaulted. We chose 30 on the previous page, but when we record we would have to choose again. So it's got 15 here. Let's just go ahead and leave that. You can add an ending logo if you choose. The logo must either be in a JPEG or a bitmap file format. Select the location of the image file and then select the background color. Now, I've seen most doctors, when they do have an image of their practice, it's in bitmap. This program is very nice in that it will take those bitmap files. So let's just go ahead and add a logo, and we'll click Browse. And then we'll select, the only thing that I have is a picture. I don't have a logo of a practice, so I'm going to double click on that and insert the picture, and then I'm going to click on Add Logo. We can change the duration if we'd like, make it play longer, and then we can select the background color. Let's go ahead and click Capture, and it's going to record the movie. Okay, so the video has been created. It was saved to my desktop. You could save it in the Documents folder or Pictures or wherever you'd like to save it. We're going to go ahead and just play it directly from here. It says, movie file created successfully. Do you want to play? Let's just click Yes. Okay, so you have a nice little video that can be shared with patients if you'd like, shared with colleagues as you make presentations to maybe a study club. It's a great way to present a case. Let's go ahead and create a 3D sequence now. We want to go to the Volume Renderer tab. We'll use the positional icons on the toolbar to reorient the image as desired. Let's go ahead and start with the front view. Now, we are on the front view now, but let's just say if we wanted to move to the right view, we would come up to the top to our toolbar, and here is the frontal view right here. As you can see, when we point to it with our mouse pointer, it will give us text overwrite. Let's go ahead and select right view. It'll give us a perfect lateral view or sagittal view. A left view, we can go ahead and go completely around to the back side of the patient. So several different orientations that we can work with, but let's go ahead and go to the frontal view for right now. In our view control window here on the left hand side, we will use the teeth mode color preset to begin with. These color presets allow for better visualization of certain anatomic structures such as soft tissue profiles, the airway, etc. This is achieved by displaying specific densities with specific colors. Let's select the eye on the toolbar to remove any of the window text, or you may leave it on if you want to. I just find it makes a little cleaner looking presentation whenever a patient is viewing it. We can go back over to our view control window, and we can select the opacity, brightness, or contrast controls as necessary to make our image a little more viewable. The opacity control, this is something that we did not have on the 2D rendering window. You can click on that and it will change the transparency based on density tolerances of the image. Let's go ahead and about the middle is generally where most will use it. Let's go ahead and open our view sequence. So the very far right, go ahead and left mouse click on that, and again we'll move that. Let's just move this down just a little bit here and see if we can keep that out of our way, because I would like to have access to some of the other controls in the view control window. The insert, modify, and delete functions have the same functionality as the ones that we use when creating our 2D sequence. So I don't think we need to go through those again. Now let's go ahead and create our view sequence. Click Insert to place our first section. You notice that we don't have a visibility window or cursors to deal with now, which is nice. Let's click on our orientation left. We'll insert. We'll click on our back view, insert. We'll click on our right view, insert, and we'll click back on the frontal view and insert. And when we view this video, our head will go completely 360 degrees around as we move through those transitions. Let's go ahead and change a color preset and go to Soft Tissue 1. You can see that any tissue that borders air is going to show up, and we'll see our sinuses very clearly, our airway. Let's go ahead and click Insert here. Let's go to Left View, click Insert. Let's go to Right View. We'll insert that. And then next we want to select Soft Tissue and Bone Worn. And this is going to be the harder tissue now, still with that tissue overlay. And we'll insert this. Now let's go to Front View. We'll insert that. And let's enable clipping. And we'll make sure that sagittal is selected. And we'll move slider to the middle, which it did come up in the middle. So we'll click Insert. Now we want to do Right View. Click Insert. Now let's select a color preset that you will not probably have on your machine. It does not come with it. It would be a custom. And let's go ahead and click that. Now you can create your own custom color presets by going to Set Custom, and then there are some nodes on here that you can move, and you left mouse click them and drag them out, and then they will change the way that the image will appear. It changes the way that certain densities are handled and the colors that are added to those. And then you just go ahead and set it as a set custom. And then when you click custom, then it would show up on the screen. But in the meanwhile, you can kind of look at what I have done as far as the nodes and move them on this screen and where I've placed them. And then you can go ahead and click on Save as File and then click Set as Custom. And then it should load this to your custom button. So let's go ahead and just X out of here. And then let's click, don't believe I've done this, let's click Insert. I want to make sure and capture that frame. Now let's go ahead, we want to take a look at this fourth molar. So I want to magnify the image, and the easiest way of doing that is going up to our toolbar, and you see there's a magnifying glass. It is labeled as Quick Zoom. So I will left mouse click on that. I will bring my mouse down to the area that I would like to magnify, and then just left mouse click. And then I can go ahead and click Insert at this point. Now I want to select Reset, which is our little house view up in the toolbar. That takes our image back down to default. And I want to disable clipping. we'll click Insert here. And then I want to move to the front view. And then we'll click Insert again. Let's go ahead and finish this. And again, same thing as I told you during the 2D reconstruction window creation of view sequences. You will be a lot more creative than I, but as far as an example, this will serve our purpose. Let's go ahead and click Start to take us to the first frame, and then we want to adjust the frames per view. Let's go ahead and click 7 or 30, and then let's click Play. I will give you a tip on how to show the transition without the distraction of the text screen. First, let's click OK here, and let's click Loop. So we'll have a continuous loop of movie, and it will go from front to end to back to beginning again. And then let's click Play. Then select View, which is located on the menu bar. And then let's select Full Screen. And let's go ahead and just take our mouse and move it out of the viewing window. You truly can make very dynamic presentations with this. I've seen these being run on a TV that may be in the reception area. I've seen them being run on a consult computer, again, as the patient is waiting for the doctor, and their scan would be put into here and then pointed out by the assistant who is leaving them to wait for the doctor and turning this on. So it can make a very powerful presentation. Okay, to stop the sequence, you click Escape, ESC, on your keyboard. Then select End in the View Sequence control panel. And then we can go ahead and just X out of the View Sequence window. Okay, now to create a video, you would want to select Capture on the sequence or the View Sequencer. So let's go ahead and select that again. Here's all of our slices, all of our frames that we selected. They do not go away. And you would do as we did when we created the 2D reconstruction view, and click Cancel, and then we'll click Cancel again to close this window. Now let's go ahead though and go to the sequence file area, and we want to select Save. And this will save the sequence as a .vseq file. That doesn't mean anything really to you, except it's a video file that's been saved in a particular format, so .vseq. And so I've clicked Save, and then we can pick out a designated area where we would have that saved to, and then we would go ahead and click Save. Once saved, the sequence can be used with any patient scan. So let's go ahead and select Desktop, and we'll just put it on there, and hopefully I can find it within there. So we'll click Save. Let's click Load, and we could save that view sequence on, say, a server that you have in your practice, and then we could go to each individual computer that is running Treatment Studio and then click Load, and then go to a saved location. So normally it's where the data would be, and you could save it there. We're going to look at view sequence, or for view sequence, and try to find a .vseq file. So there it is. Double click that, and then it inserts that into our sequences. So I've got a couple of sequences here, and then what you would do is just click on the sequence that you would like, and then when you go ahead and click Play, and it would be the same sequence that we just recorded. It's something that can also be shared if you wanted to share it to another practice or share it to another location that you practice out of as well. If we click on New, this would delete all the frames that we have here. So New, delete all view sequences, yes, and then we can go ahead and reload them by clicking on the view sequence that we have. Okay, and then we click Start and play again. This now completes our Creating Viewing Sequences and 3D Videos training tutorial. Hopefully what was covered today will be beneficial as you treatment plan with your patients and share with your colleagues. Please do not hesitate to call Imaging Sciences customer support at 800-205-3570 with any questions that might arise. From all of us at ICAT, thank you.